Hey there, fellow nature wanderers. If you're like me, you love spending time outdoors, breathing in that fresh air and connecting with the natural world. But at home, have you ever thought about what's in the products you use every single day? That's why I'm excited to share Apple Valley Natural Soap with you. Their handcrafted all-natural soaps are made with organic ingredients, essential oils, and no harsh chemicals. Awesome! So they're not only great for your skin, but they're safe for the planet. And they don't just stop at soap. Apple Valley Natural Soap also carries a full line of natural skincare products, including shampoos, body butters, facial bars, and more. All designed to nourish your skin without synthetic ingredients. You can't beat that. That's just awesome. Whether you're hiking in the woods or just winding down after a long day, their products bring a little bit of nature right into your home. And the best part? By supporting Apple Valley Natural Soap through The Nature Wanderer, you're also supporting this podcast. Just head to the show notes and click on the link for Apple Valley Natural Soap. So go ahead, treat yourself and the environment to something better. Your skin and Mother Nature will thank you. Now let's get on with our adventure. Welcome, friends, to the Nature Wanderer podcast. I'm Paul, and today we're looking skyward. Yeah, we're looking up. We're going to meet some of the world's most incredible aerial predators. I'm going to talk about the falcons today. They're fascinating creatures, and I absolutely love them. They're just so interesting, the way nature built them to survive. If you recall, last week, I was talking a little bit about being at my wife's pottery shop, because I help her out there. Every once in a while I'm there helping her at the shop, creating stuff sometimes, other times just manning the shop. Well, she does all the creating, and beautiful pottery work. In East Aurora, I'm going to give her a small plug here. In East Aurora, New York, on the Roycroft campus, and she is in the lower level of the Antiques building, Black Raven Pottery. So come and check it out. It's an awesome place. But yeah, we sometimes in the summer will take our lunches, I should say most times, we will take and sit outside and enjoy nature, enjoy the weather. And lately, this spring has been very interesting on our lunch breaks. We've been watching the starlings go in and out of the little vent on the one building there. They're on their second nesting, but the fascinating thing is it seems like every time you go outside, and even when we're inside in the pottery shop and we have the windows open, you can hear them calling. And it's the American kestrel. They are a type of falcon. Now the kestrels they have a nest, and they have been very busy defending that nest. I don't know if there's babies in there yet or not. I think there are, because they've been gathering a lot of food. You look at the ground in the parking lot where we have our lunch. We have a table set up at the edge of the parking lot, and we eat our lunch out there. So it's fairly peaceful. And we look at the ground, and there's little pieces of animals, sometimes bird wings. Falcons are big bird eaters. They'll eat more birds than they do rodents or other animals. So we're finding parts of wings, we're finding some clumps of feather with skin attached. It's like, yeah, they are feasting. Yesterday was funny because we were just leaving the pottery shop. It was the end of the day, we closed up, and we got into our car, and it's like, my wife is like, "Are those feathers?" And I'm like, "What?" And I look, and it's like raining feathers. It was like snowing feathers. There were feathers just floating through the air all over. And so we got out of the car and looked up, and there's 2 falcons, 2 kestrels sitting up in the tree. The one flew off all of a sudden, but the other one was just sitting there on a branch, something in his talons. You could see the way it was moving, that it was ripping it apart. So they had a bird that they had caught, and it was just starting to eat, and it was pulling it apart, and it was raining feathers. It was kind of neat to see. I know maybe you're not into that, but hey, it's part of nature. They have to survive too. The other one was carrying something in its talons when it left, so it may have been carrying food back to the babies in the nest. Seeing that both of them were out of the nest, I'm guessing there are fledglings, or not quite fledglings, nestlings, I should say. So there are some babies in the nest right now. So that's my exciting day yesterday with the falcons at the shop. But so we're going to dive in a little bit deeper and discover not just about the kestrel falcon, but about falcons in general, because they're such an interesting creature. So grab your hiking stick, get outdoors, and listen to the podcast while you're out hiking, or just grab a chair and sit and relax by the window watching nature. So let's meet the falcons. Now, before I get into falcons, I do want to let you know falcons are a bird of prey, also known as a raptor. Raptors are essentially birds that eat other animals. So they're meat eaters. So they need special tools to help them catch, kill, and eat other animals. The main tools that all birds of prey have, which birds of prey include hawks, owls, eagles, falcons, the main tool that they have are talons and a curved beak. The talons are what most people would refer to as claws, but they're not really claws. Claws are made of keratin, okay, whereas keratin, same thing our fingernails are made of, same thing our hair is made of. So claws are made of keratin. Talons are made of bone, so basically an extension of the bone sticking out of the end of the toe. Talons are very sharp, they are curved, they're used for catching the prey, the animal that's being hunted, the food, and then they have a curved beak to help them rip and tear that food in small pieces. Now, falcons are a little bit different than the other birds of prey. They belong to the genus Falco. Okay, it's a group of raptors which are known for their sharp talons, very sharp talons. And they have a hooked beak, just like all other birds of prey. But they also have very powerful, fast flight. Remember what they're after: other birds. So they have to catch these other birds. And if you've ever watched a songbird, especially one that's in danger, they're pretty quick. So if you're a falcon, you have to be even quicker. Eagles, slow. They're too big and bulky. Same thing with hawks. I mean, some hawks can be pretty fast. Your accipiter hawks, like your sharp-shinned hawk or the Cooper's hawk, those guys are the faster hawks. So your accipiter hawks are faster than your buteos, like your red tail. But anyhow, the falcon are built for speed. Now, the thing that sets the falcons apart, besides being so fast and built for speed, is, well, they're unlike hawks and eagles because they have a notched beak. That notch in the beak, it's a little, you can actually see it, it's a protrusion, it's got a little notch on it. That is used to help them hang on to the animal. And they use it for killing the animal. So most of your raptors, most of your birds of prey are using their talons for killing. The falcons use their beak. They'll grab the neck of that bird and hang on tight with that notch, they can, and then they just snap the neck. So it's actually a very humane death. It's very quick. So that, I guess you can say that makes it humane because it's very quick. So that's what sets them apart from the other raptors. Their speed and that notched beak. So your hawks, they depend a lot on strength, whereas your falcons are depending on speed and agility. Oh, another thing, I almost forgot, another thing that sets them apart from hawks, eagles. Hawks and eagles, when they're nesting, they build an actual nest up in a tree, on a branch. The falcons, they build their nests on cliffs. So they will find a cliff and they will build their nest there. Now, how many cliffs do we have around you? I don't know where you live, but around me, there are some places. I have seen them actually in some gorges where they have built cliff nests. They're cliff dwellers. But you also find them in the middle of cities all the time. In my area in western New York, there's a lot of falcons in the Rochester, right in the city of Rochester, and in the city of Buffalo. So they build their nests up on the window ledges of buildings, and you'll find them up there building their nests. So that's another difference between them and the other raptors. Now, falcons are found across 6 continents. In other words, pretty much everywhere in the world except Antarctica. That's the only continent you will not find falcons on. Not much lives in Antarctica. So yeah, you do find falcons everywhere across the world, different species of them. And they have adapted to a variety of environments, variety of habitats. You'll find them in deserts, tundra, and like I said earlier, cityscapes. You'll find them right in cities too. So you do find falcons in a lot of different environments because of how they've adapted. Now, of course, it's the species. The kestrel, I've seen them out in the country, I've seen them in the city, I've seen them just about everywhere. They are one of the falcons who has adapted to a lot of different types of environments. There are 4 main falcons that you may find here in the United States. The most common is the one that I just mentioned, the American kestrel, the one that I keep seeing everywhere. Now, the kestrel is the most common falcon, the most abundant falcon in North America. They're also the smallest of the falcons in North America. There are some smaller falcons around the world, but they are the smallest falcon in North America. But there's also the peregrine falcon, which is known for its speed. And they're another one that will nest in cities. Up on the ledges of buildings, we actually have a couple of nesting pair right in the city of Buffalo. They're also found in Rochester. They love being in cities, just like the kestrel does. But the peregrine falcon is the one who gets all of the attention because, well, there's not a lot of them around. And they're the fastest divers. Yeah, they're the fastest bird on Earth, reaching speeds over 240 miles an hour in a dive. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute here. I'll get to the other 2. We also have Merlin falcons. Not real common. I have seen them in the wild before, but they're not real common. And the last one that most people don't think about for being in the U.S., that would be the gyr falcon. The gyr falcon is actually the largest falcon, and they're cold climate falcon. Usually you find them up in the Arctic, but we do get them up in the mountainous regions of the northwestern U.S. Okay, so you head out west, you're going to start seeing gyr falcons out that way. So I keep mentioning speed. So let's talk a little bit about the speed of the falcons. As I mentioned, peregrine falcon, they're the fastest bird on Earth in a dive. When they're diving after their prey, they're like a bullet going through the air. 240 miles an hour. That's what they've been clocked at. Yeah, someone took one of these radar guns and they clocked a peregrine in a dive at 240 miles an hour. That is quick. And one of the reasons that they go at those top speeds is to get their prey. I mean, you're a bird flying along and you're looking around, making sure there's no danger, and you've got a peregrine falcon overhead coming down at 240 miles an hour. You don't know what hit you. I've actually seen them hunt. I've seen videos of them hunting. I've seen it in person too. I've watched them hunt in Buffalo, where they've been diving down off of a building, or up in the where they've been diving down from way up in the sky. So they go way up in the sky. They got excellent eyesight. They have to. Okay, all birds of prey have really excellent eyesight, but they're way up in the sky and they see their prey, and then they just dive down and they hit it so fast, all you see are feathers. It's almost like the bird that they hit just explodes. That's how much speed they hit it with. And what they do a lot of times is they knuckle it. So they have their fists clenched up. Remember, they're not a hawk. They're not trying to get the bird with their talons. What they do a lot of times is they will come down and they just take their knuckles and they just wrap that bird so hard it knocks them out, and then they swoop around and grab it. Other times they will just come down and grab it with their talons, but a lot of times they're going so fast they just knuckle that bird. Now, how do they reach these top speeds? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, they use gravity to help pull them down. I mean, everything is just going to drop because of gravity. Yes, we do have gravity here on the Earth. Newton's apple. So that's pulling them down. But pulling hawks down, why aren't they going so fast? Well, the thing that helps them fly very fast is their aerodynamics. Okay, they have long, pointed wings. These long, pointed wings fold up tight on their back, and they become very streamlined. Being streamlined, when you see them in a dive, their wings are just like arrows. They're pointed, and they're on their back really tight. These birds are just so thin and narrow. There's no wind drag. So it's being streamlined. It stops the wind from slowing them down, which makes them just barrel right through the air. Now, they also have very uniquely designed nostrils, what we call the nares on a bird. Now, these nostrils are designed to regulate airflow. And it does two things. First of all, it prevents overpressure while they're diving so that they can breathe against it. So it helps them to fly fast, and it helps them to breathe while they're diving down. I mean, if they're going diving down and they can't breathe, they're going to pass out and they're not going to get their prey. So specially designed nostrils. Now, another thing that helps them to fly at high speeds, and it's not really helping them fly, but it's helping them to watch their prey, watch what they're after. You have wind blowing in your face. Maybe you stick your head out of a car for a little while, and you have the wind just blowing in your face. Makes it hard for you to breathe, okay, but it also does what to your eyes? Yeah, it's putting pressure against your eyes. It's making it hard for you to keep your eyes open. Well, if you're a falcon and you're diving fast after your prey, you don't want to lose sight of that prey, because then you lose your meal. So they need to keep their eyes open. Well, all birds of prey have a really neat thing called a nictitating membrane. Now, this nictitating membrane is like a second eyelid. It's clear so that they can see through it, but it closes to protect the eye from danger, including high winds. So the falcons use that nictitating membrane to help to keep seeing where their food is while preventing the wind from drying out the eye. All of these things help these guys hunt at top speeds. And they do have a very unique hunting technique. I mean, they're flying way up in the sky. A lot of times you won't even see them up there. They're just like a little dot unless you're specifically looking for them. And like I said, very good eyesight. So they're spotting their prey from way up high. Once they see it, they fold those wings up tight, and they dive down at those top speeds, knuckling. Okay, basically they're clenching their talons tight, and they knock that bird right out of the sky. Now, the kestrel, when he's hunting, very unique, even amongst the falcons, he hovers. And I've seen this so many times, it is so fascinating to see. Instead of soaring around like most birds do, okay, when they're hunting, if you ever look up in the sky and you see a red-tailed hawk hunting, they're doing these big circles round and round and round. Yeah, they're not staying in one spot. Usually they're kind of moving down the field, but they're watching the ground, watching for any movement, and they're just circling up there. The kestrel, on the other hand, they will look while they're flying, but if they're actually hunting and they're scanning the ground, they will just hover in one spot. They kind of arch their body a little bit back, and the wings will flutter at just the right way to allow them to stay in one place. They just hover in midair. It's an awesome sight to see. So keep an eye out in the sky for the kestrel falcon doing their hovering. Now, when you see the kestrel hovering, they're usually not after another bird. They eat a lot of different things. They're a small falcon. They will eat not just birds. They're sometimes eating insects. They're eating mice. They have found that mice are a big part of the kestrel's diet as well as birds. So when you see them hovering, they're usually watching the ground. They're not so much looking for birds in the sky. I see them hunting on phone lines as well, where they're just sitting there watching. As soon as they see a bird fly by, they go flying after it. Speed, very fast flyers, not just in a dive, but the kestrel, they're pretty quick when they're in flight as well. So let's talk a little bit about the life of falcons. Okay, so I talked a little bit about the nesting, how they will nest up on ledges. Yeah, they scrape a shallow depression on ledges in a cliff. Okay, and that's where they make their nests. They will, in cities, often make a nest out of sticks, but most of the time they're just using the ledge there. There's not much of a nest. They don't build them like other raptors do. Now, in the wild, these nests are on cliffs if they can find them, but as I was mentioning earlier, falcons will use buildings and other tall objects like bridges in cities, and they use those to build their nests on. They like to be up high. It protects the babies from predators. Now, the diet of these birds is mostly medium-sized birds. With the peregrines, they are after things like pigeons and shorebirds. I remember several years ago, I was actually helping the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation. I was kind of working a little bit with them to monitor some of the peregrine falcon boxes, mostly because I worked for Buffalo Audubon and we had a camera set up on one of the platforms that was set up in the city for the peregrines. And I talked to the one guy who was actually doing some of the monitoring, and he took me down into their basement at the DEC offices, and he showed me their freezer and some of the stuff they had collected off of the platform because they were doing research on what are these birds eating. And there were so many shorebird parts, skulls of shorebirds, just the heads of shorebirds. And it's like they thought they're mostly after just the pigeons around the city. But no, these peregrines were heading down to the lake, which is not far from Buffalo. The Buffalo is right on Lake Erie. And they're heading down to the lake and getting a lot of shorebirds instead. So yeah, mostly birds with the peregrine falcon. With the kestrel falcon, besides eating birds, they're also eating insects, small mammals like mice. They have found that they will eat lizards and even small snakes. So they're eating a lot of different foods. I've actually seen a kestrel flying over, and they were carrying something really long in their mouth, which I imagine was a garter snake. Now your gyr falcons, remember, they're up in colder regions. They are eating birds like ptarmigans, which are like a grouse. Okay, ptarmigans, they're about the size of a chicken, and they're also eating ducks up in the Arctic regions, so up in Alaska. So that's their main diet. Now, as far as their mating and rearing of young, falcons are typically birds who mate for life. So although they don't spend the entire year together, because you have to kind of separate to have a territory where there's enough food to support you, if they can find enough food in one area, the pair will actually stick together year-round. If not, after they raise their young, they go off on their own, they go their own directions, back to their own territories, and then they find each other the next year. So falcons are known for mating for life. It's not like songbirds who pick a new mate every year, sometimes more than one. The falcons are primarily monogamous. Now, with raising the young, both parents are very active in the whole process. Females are the incubators. They're the ones who sit on the eggs, incubating them until they hatch. The males, they will actually hunt the whole time. They don't just disappear. They will go out and they will collect food for the female so that she doesn't have to get on the nest. So like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure there's babies in the nest at my wife's pottery shop because both are away from the nest. Normally during incubation, the female stays on the nest, incubates those eggs. I mean, not all the time. She will leave once in a while, but she's mostly on the nest, and the males are the ones doing the hunting, feeding her, and then once the babies are born, then both of them will help feed them. Now, once the babies are born, once you have hatchlings in the nest, the babies do grow rather quickly. Okay, they will actually be ready to fly in just a matter of a couple of weeks. Yeah, it doesn't take long at all. So they do grow really quickly. It's cute when you see them when they're really young. They look like big cotton balls. They just got fluff all over. And even when they're ready to fledge, a lot of times you'll see little fluffs. They look so funny. They have little fluffs of feathers, the downy feathers on top of their heads. Everything else is, grown in so that they can fly, but it seems like the heads are always the ones that make them look funny when they're really young. Okay, now both parents do teach the young how to fly, how to hunt. The babies will stick with the parents for sometimes a week, sometimes a little longer, until they know how to hunt proficiently. And then they go off on their own, and like I said earlier, mom and dad, they go their separate ways. Most of the time, not always. Now, falcons are considered migratory. Some don't migrate, though. Some will stick around all winter long. I have seen kestrels stick around throughout the winter, but most of them will head south to warmer climates. It's just so much easier to find food in the warmer climates where there is no snow. Food's more abundant, so most of them do migrate. And some falcons, like the peregrines, they'll actually migrate thousands of miles. Some Arctic nesting peregrines have been known to travel all the way down to South America for the winter. I mean, that's a long distance to go. I don't think I'd go that far, especially if I was flapping my wings the whole way to get there. So, yeah, but they are known for, migrating long distances. So let's talk a little bit about falcons and, well, us. Okay, how we have been a part of the falcons' lives and the falcons have been a part of our lives. I mean, for thousands of years, people have used falcons for hunting, a sport. So if you have never heard of falconry, I don't want to get too much into it, but falconry is the sport of hunting with a falcon. So they use usually peregrines, but peregrine numbers went down for a while, so they started switching to other falcons in falconry. Some falconers will actually use red-tailed hawks in falconry. So they don't just use falcons, but originally it was mostly falcons, if not primarily falcons, that they were using for hunting. It originated in Mesopotamia and Egypt, and after a while it became a sport of kings. Yeah, the nobles would be the ones in Europe and the Middle East who would do falconry. Basically, they were training these falcons for hunting, and they would use visual clues and a reward system like, oh, here's a little snack. Thank you for bringing me this large bird for dinner. They would get a part of it. So that's the sport of falconry. And so people have been using falcons for over 4,000 years. It's been a long time that we have had this connection with falcons. Now, unfortunately, in the 1970s and before that even, because of our obsession with killing insects, controlling nature, we started using DDT to control insects on our crops, so that we could have higher crop yields. And DDT became so common in the United States and other countries too, where you could buy it in the store and use it in your backyard to get rid of the insects off of your roses or your flowers. Now, unfortunately, DDT got into the environment, and it got into falcons. Falcons were eating mice, they were eating birds. These birds, mice, they're infected with the DDT because they were eating the insects. They're eating food that the DDT was on, and the falcons were eating so many of these birds and mice that the concentration was building up in their bodies. So essentially they had the DDT in their bodies. Now, it didn't kill them. Okay, DDT did not kill the falcons. But what it did is it thinned their eggshells. So when they gave birth to these eggs, okay, when they laid these eggs, the eggshells were so thin, when the mother would sit on them to incubate them, they basically would crack, they would break. And peregrine falcons, back in the 1970s, they were almost gone from the U.S. Yeah, their numbers had dropped so much, they were an endangered species. Now, thankfully, DDT was banned in 1972. And after that, the peregrine population started to recover. It was a slow recovery, but it did start to recover. And one of the things that helped them recover quicker was breeding programs. I know there was one in Rochester, New York, where they were raising peregrine falcons. They were breeding them in captivity, and they were releasing them to the wild in specific areas throughout the city. They'd make little nesting platforms for them. They would release them in those areas, and they started breeding. They started reproducing, and the numbers came back much quicker. So we have had kind of a love-hate relationship with these falcons. We've almost put them to extinction, and yet we used to use them for hunting, for sport. Now, we also have helped the peregrines. I mean, in cities, we've basically built cliffs for them to nest on. Every time we build a tall building, hey, it's another mountain for the peregrines to build a nest on. And I know in a lot of cities, I know in Buffalo, I think they have one in Rochester as well, but I've seen in other cities as well, they put these cameras on the nesting boxes. And that actually helps to bring public awareness to the plight of the peregrines. I mean, people want to see these awesome creatures that they don't get to see usually in public. I know if you're going to a city like Buffalo, how many of you have seen a peregrine flying around in Buffalo? Most people probably haven't even been looking, but they're there. So these cameras actually help to bring awareness to the peregrine falcons. I know there was for a while when I was helping Buffalo Audubon monitor the peregrine falcons and work on the cameras. There were some people that were so obsessed with these peregrines. Every spring, you know, they'd set up lawn chairs around where the nesting site was, and they'd watch them hunt. You know, people were taking pictures there. You know, so yeah, there was a real. I mean, we had a lot of hits on our camera viewings, so it does make it very popular. Now, although the peregrines and the other falcons have made a comeback, I mean, kestrel falcons, their numbers dropped for a while, but people started programs where people were putting nest boxes out for the kestrels. Kestrels are a cavity nester. They're one that doesn't always go up on a cliff. They will build their nest in a cavity. So people started putting up these nest boxes for them, and that helped their numbers get up. But there are still some challenges for the falcons, unfortunately, even though their numbers are coming up. Habitat loss and climate change are huge threats for the falcons, all of them, all the falcons. So habitat loss everywhere, you know, is a big factor in numbers still, you know, going down. Another thing is rodenticides. People don't want mice in their yards. They don't want mice in the farms, so they poison them. If you have mice in your garage, did you put poison out? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. I know you don't want them in there, but do it without poisons. I'm not going to give you advice on how to destroy animals, but do it without poisons, because if the mouse eats the poison and wanders out of your garage and dies out in the wild, that peregrine falcon, that kestrel falcon, remember, kestrels do eat mice. They will come down and they will eat that mouse. It's an easy meal for them, and then they get poisoned. So please avoid the poisons, but that is also hurting their numbers. They have found that wind turbines do pose a hazard. Not a huge one. I mean, the debate is still out there on whether turbines are bad for birds. It depends on where they're located. But they can do some harm for the birds as well. Well, before I wrap things up, I do have a challenge for you. Yeah, the next time you're outdoors, I want you to look up. Doesn't matter whether you're in the country or the city. I want you to start looking up, look for the birds. Maybe you'll see a small bird hovering in place. Could be a kestrel. Or if you're in the city, look up at above bridges or office towers. Maybe you'll see a peregrine falcon soaring. So let's see if you can spot some of the falcons in your local area. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed listening. Be certain to share the podcast with your nature-loving friends so that they too can learn more about the natural world around them. If you'd like to support the podcast, visit the show notes for a link to my Ko-Fi page. You can also support the podcast by purchasing awesome items at my online merch store. And if you like to journal your wanderings through nature, be certain to purchase a Nature Wander Nature Journal. I have them for adults, and I have guided journals for the young ones at heart, or the real young ones. And all the links for these things are in the show notes. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you next week, I hope. Stop back, and I'll have another episode of the Nature Wanderer podcast for you. Have a great one, and keep exploring the nature around you. Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings.